Alright, so now we can start on texturing. File, save as. Let's call this texturing 04. Oops. And I accidentally hit something else inside here, so I didn't save. There you go. Okay. So now we'll start off with the basic items here. So we have essentially all this stuff that's here. Well, let's just say everything. Everything in the scene, with the exception of this piece here. These knobs in this face here, the knobs in this face here, are all going to be solid colors with a little bit of texture to it, kind of like a bump or whatever. Okay. These other ones are going to be stuff that is actually a file that we're going to create. All right. So again, if we just kind of jump here and look at a radio face car, you can see how it's not just like, you know, colors, but they're actually like words on here. I don't know if you ever noticed that there's words on your radio console in your car, but there's actual words. There we go, perfect example. Okay, so some of them they have the words on the button itself, and on other ones the buttons are on the outside of it. Right, so it's all going to depend on how we want to set it up. And the same thing for the AC controls, and obviously the stick shift as well. So we're first going to go through and just do all the basic pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the stick shift, because I'm not going to deal with that right now. I'm going to turn off my radio face. I'm going to turn off my AC controls. And this is everything that's inside here. That's basically going to be about the same color, with the exception of these little rubbery parts are going to be a different color. And these vent things inside here are going to be a different color. Okay, those are easy to deselect. I have my AC vents on a layer. Yeah, so I can just hide those. And my storage layer, everything goes away on that. Okay, so I can just do that and then just reassign stuff manually. So I'm going to grab all these pieces, and I'm going to go to my lighting and shading. I'm going to assign a new material. Now, because we're using Mental Ray, we don't want to use Blinn or Fong or Lambert. These are all boring ones. We don't use those. So under the Mental Ray ones, there's a super duper awesome shader called MIA Material X Passes. MIA Material X Passes. That's the one you want to use. So I'm going to right click on it first, then say add to favorites. Okay, now I'm going to click on it. There we go. So in here I'm going to go to my tab that has all the material properties, and then I'm going to call this base. Come on, click in the right spot, Sean. Call this base console color underscore Mia. Okay, so this is what color my Mia is going to be. Now before we get into the actual coloring of this, I just want to show you something that if I pick, let's say, this sweet greenish color, I'm going to turn my reflectivity off for now, and then I render this, you'll see that my sweet green color does not come out to be a sweet green color. Okay, here is the color that I chose, like this, and it came out to be that color. Now I can actually use an eyedropper and eyedrop some of this, and you'll see that there's a definite difference between this color and that color. Okay, now the reason for this is because of, in our render settings, we clicked this box here. Okay, so basically what we're saying is every color that we bring in is an sRGB color, but this color here is not correcting itself. Okay, so we have to do some correction to the color so that we get the exact color we want. So we're going to click on the map. We're going to go to Utilities and find Gamma Correct. And it looks like this guy here. I'm going to right click and again add this to favorites because I'm going to use it quite often. And then click Gamma Correct. So these bottom values I'm going to change to 0.454. All three of them. And then I'm going to pick from my value that green that I wanted. Okay, I'm going to save this image just so you can see it, and then I'll render it out. Let me make sure it's saved. Yes, it did. Okay, so now you can see that this color green is much closer to the color green that renders. This one is basically a washed out version of that one. Alright, so just be aware that as we're picking colors that they should match pretty close to what that is. Now if we had some sort of, let's say we had a blue light shining on a yellow surface, well, that might cause a little bit of color change happening inside there, but we don't. We have a white light shining on a green surface, so we should have that same color. Okay, so every time we choose a color, we're going to do this little gamma correct trick. And one of the things I don't want to do is have to keep typing in this 0.454. Call me lazy. I do quite often. So what I'm going to do is go up to presets, and I'm going to say save gamma preset. And I'm going to call this 454. And so now next time I do a gamma correct, all I have to do is, let's pretend these are all set to 1, which means that there's no gamma correction. I go to presets, 454, replace, and now it automatically types them all in. So it's just a little quick cheat. Alright, so now whatever color we want this console to be, we can just choose it from here. Okay, so I'm going to go with sort of like this creamy color, kind of like that. And I like to render it, make sure that it's looking decent. There you go. That looks sufficient for now. We can always come back and change it. Alright, so that's good. So I just click on this, I get back to my base color, or I can use this little bottom arrow thing to get back there. I turn my reflectivity off. I'll turn it back up just so you can see what it looks like. There's going to be a lot of shininess to this thing. We're not really picking up a whole lot of reflection, but there's definitely a lot of reflection happening that we really can't see it doing it right now. Okay, but it's there. We don't want it to be reflective. Look at the actual reference piece. I'm going to take my reflectivity down. Now I'm going to take my glossiness down. Before we used to have like a specular setting. This is kind of like your specular. You can see the little dot up here. So this is just kind of blurring the reflection. Okay, whatever reflection we get from this glossiness is blurring it. So you can see how sharp that specular is. I'll save this and re-render it. And now it's going to be a bit more dispersed, still there, but just a bit more dispersed, and that's what I want in this. I'm also going to go down to where it says bump, and I'm going to do a standard bump. There's 2 in here. I'm just going to do standard, and I'm going to map on a granite. Change my bump depth to, let's say, 0.1. Go to my granite, change my cell size to 0.01, and I'll just render it and see where I'm at. Okay, I can definitely see some grain happening up here, and there's some grain happening right there. So let me just add a bit more contrast into this by taking off all the colors, and then just pulling up, maybe like that much. Just pulling up these 2 middle ones. Okay, let me hit the back button or go to the bump. I'm going to put this up to 1 just to see where it's at. I just want to see where I need to be looking. And see, again, what size the grain is. Sometimes you just lower that grain too much and it's just impossible to see. Yeah, I think I might have lowered the grain too much. Let's go back to the grain. I'll put it at 0.1, then we'll take a look at it and see. And again, these numbers are not for you. These numbers are the numbers for my specific scene. You have to play with them to get a nice look to it. All right. So that's looking good. I think I want to just take my bump down now. Maybe to 0.1 again. It just looks too spotty, so I don't want the spottiness. And a lot of times you just kind of throw these things on, get it, 90% of the way, and then you can come back and tweak these things later. So that looks good. There's something there. It's not shouting and screaming at me that there's a bump, and that's kind of what I want. All right. So that piece is good. So now let me go to, let's see, let's do the AC controls. Okay, now I'm going to assign that same material to all this other stuff that's inside here. Okay, so I have this and this that need that same material because it's all part of the same thing. So I'm going to go to lighting and shading, assign existing, and because I named it, base control. or base console. I'll turn my radio face on, do the same thing. Lighting and shading, assign existing, base, there we go. I'll turn my AC vents on. I'm going to grab this. And I can just hit G, and it'll redo that assigning. And if I accidentally, grab one of these pieces and assign that material to it, I can either lighting and shading assign existing and assign Lambert 1, or I can just ignore it. Just wait till I'm ready for it, then assign, what I want when I want. Storage, all of this stuff is going to get that same material. Okay, we'll do those separately. This is good, that's good, okay. Alright, so that's good there. So let's go. I'm going to do these little rubbery parts. I like the way those usually turn out. So I just grabbed all the rubbery parts. Now I could have also just grabbed one and hit the up arrow. Remember we grouped it when we created it originally. And then go to assign new material. Or actually, because we favorited it, we can go to assign favorite material and say Mia. See how easy it is now? Before it wasn't there. So we'll rename this rubber storage grips _ Mia. Let's go get a color to this. And remember, we can't just pick a color. We have to click on the map. We'll go to Maya. There's our gamma correct because we favorited it. And we'll do our preset, replace, and then give us a different value. So I'm just going to go with a dark, a dark tan color. I can even pick this tan and just darken it. Maybe add a little bit more saturation to it. Okay, so we'll hit the back button. I'm going to take the reflectivity down, but I'm going to keep the glossiness up. I want those to be a bit glossier. Okay, and I could render those out to see, but I think that's going to be sufficient. I'm not going to have too much of a camera angle kind of showing those off anyway. All right, so that's good. Let's go up here to the AC, and if I click on these, and I shift click those back ones. Remember, the back ones are all one piece, and the front ones are all separate pieces. There we go. Then I can assign a Mia. AC vents _ Mia. Go to my diffuse color, click the map, go to Maya, click gamma correct, do our 454 preset. And I'm still going to give it that dark color like we had down here, but I'm not going to have as shiny of a specular on it. It's going to be a bit more diffused. Okay, and then this, because it's a bit more prominent, I am going to add a bump to it of granite. Granite, where'd you go? Right there. I'm going to lower this down to 0.25. I'm going to take my values down. And cell size, I'll lower that a bit. And also a density. I think I'll take some of the density off just to get a little bit more holes in there. Alright, so now let's render this again. Alright, so that's looking really good. I like the way that this is coming out. Again, we can always change things later. Okay, so don't be set on anything or kind of locked in on anything that you're doing. This back here I want to be black. This is like nothing. And this as well, it's hard to see. But remember we had that little piece of plane back here behind our CD player. So I'm going to make both of those black just so we can't see anything back there. So I'm just going to go to assign favorites, Mia. And for the color black, I don't need to add a gamma. Okay, there's only 5 colors that you don't need to add a gamma, and black is one of them, so I can just turn that down. No reflectivity, don't need to worry about glossiness. That's good. Oops, should probably name it though. So let's go back to here. Black, Mia. All right, let's go to our stick shift layer. I'm gonna grab the stick shift. Let's do this metal part first. This is one of the cool things about Mias. I'm gonna go to the Mia. There it is. Stick shift transition, Mia. Under presets, I'm going to go down to set and metal and replace. These are all just presets that come with the Mia. These are not ones that I created myself. They just come with the Mia. So now there's a little set and metal thing. Now if we render this, you'll see how we get this like brushed metal look to it. It's not too prominent in this case because of other things in the scene, but eventually it'll look better. Okay, so we'll just believe me that it is better looking. All right, so now we'll go here. We will assign a Mia to this. Oops. And this will be stick shift leather underscore Mia. For the coloring on this, I'm actually going to go to CG textures. Okay, there is a leather texture inside Maya, but I really don't care for it. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to log in. If you don't have a login, you can create one. You get free 15 megabytes a day. Type in leather up here. And I'll get a whole bunch of different leather materials. That's not obviously something I want. This is more of what I'm after, or something like that. Even if I get, you know, a different color, I can always change that color. I like that brown up there. Okay, let me grab the brown. So I click on it, and then in here, it gives me different options. So the small one, which is 640 by 640, you know, that's what that one looks like. And here's what the other one looks like, but I can get a much larger size. So in here, I'm just going to grab this medium one. So I went to my downloads, I cut it, and now I'm just going to paste it inside of my CarConsole source images. Okay, I can also copy this, and in my source folder, I can go under textures. Don't have one for that, so I can just go leather and just paste it in there. That way I'm starting my catalog of different materials that I might need. Alright, so now I'm back in Maya. I click on the map for color. I don't need to do a gamma correct because I'm bringing in a file. You don't need to do gamma corrects on files. I'm going to click on the folder and say leather. I didn't have to browse, it's right in my source images, that's what I want. I hit 6, and there I can see the leather material on here. Okay, now it rendered out, and you can see right here that it looks like the texture is blending in nicely. Then we got this weird spot, and it's blending in nicely in the weird spot. Okay, and what's happening on this is because these points here are a bit closer, or were a bit closer together when we originally created this. Let me hit 3. No, it is 3. There it is. Now you can see the points right here are a bit closer. We're getting that kind of funky look to this. Okay, so what I need to do is go to Control A on the surface, and under the lofted surface shape, there's a fix texture warp. It's not going to show up here, but then when I go to render this, it'll fix that issue. It's just how it's kind of unwrapping that 3D surface and putting the texture on it. So that'll help blend all that in together much, much nicer. Okay. Now I'm realizing that we didn't put the divisions in here for where we want that seam to be, so we'll also do that while we're playing with this. Okay, and that'll help it kind of look better also. So what I'm going to do is go to, hit 5 so I can see this. And these areas here that are right at the corners, these areas here, I'm just going to go and insert some edge loops, or some isoparms. 4 should be good. I'm going to do that to all of them. There we go. And then I'm going to right click and go to Hull. And I'm going to try to pick on one that's about at the middle. It might take some kind of clicking around to get it. Just doesn't want to pick. Alright, well, I guess I'll do one at a time. So I have this one here. I'm going to hold down W, hold down the left mouse button, and say normal average. And then I'm just going to push this in. And what you'll see is that we get this little indent in here that kind of looks like a seam. Okay, I'm just going to do the same thing to this side. And the reason I'm doing these separately is because it's just having trouble selecting that. It's not a... doesn't happen all the times, but occasionally it does, where it just doesn't want to select certain things. So I can just select one, use my arrows, and I'm grabbing the yellow one and pushing it in. Whichever one looks like it's going to push it in. Obviously the green looks like it would go down like this, and the blue looks like it would go down like that. The same thing on this side. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. There we go. So now it looks like we have some sort of seam right there. And if we really wanted to, if we really wanted to spend the time, or if this is a production piece, we would definitely want to go through and add some stitches or something to it. Okay, and the glossiness on this is really coming off bad. Okay, so I know that right away. Let me just go into my material, and I'm just going to take the reflectivity down to maybe 0.1, and just pull this glossiness down to maybe 0.2. Okay, now again, I can marquee inside here, and hit this render region button. Render just what I've marqueed. And that's looking much more like leather. That's what I want. Good. So now I'm going to go down to bump. Now for the bump, I actually want to use the same texture on here. So I'm going to go to the hypershade. I'm going to go to textures, and here is my file that I brought in. It says file 1, that's my file. So I'm just going to middle drag my file onto standard bump for the stick shift leather. And what this does is it connects the same file to the bump. So basically what's going to happen is, here's the original. Let's render this again. I did a little save so we can see what it looks like before and after. I haven't changed any of the bump settings, just whatever it was. So there's before, and there it is now. So you can see how we're getting these little bumps, these little veins to raise up. Okay, so I actually want it to go the other way. I want it to be a little bit negatively, so I'm just going to go negative. Oops, I'll actually go negative 0.5. And then we'll save it, render it again. And now that's looking much nicer. Okay, now it actually looks like we have little veins inside the leather, little impressions. Okay, much nicer. Cool. Alright, so now let's take this guy here, and we'll drop a me on him. And this is going to be called stick shift knob solid Mia. I don't need this. Oops. There. Okay. So now this is just going to be a solid color. I'm going to add a gamma correct to it because it's going to be a not black color. So let me go into this dark color here. And it's going to be a dark color, it's not black. Like that maybe. Okay. And I'm not going to render this like every single thing out every single time. I'm just going to kind of do a couple things, render it out, and then adjust as I go. Alright. This guy here, okay, this is going to be glass. So I'm actually just going to go to assign a Mia to him. Stick shift glass, Mia, presets, glass, physical, replace. Now we have glass. It's not going to see anything yet, but we will. Alright, and I think that's about it. Okay. So that's all of our basic things. Let me save. And then we'll do a little render shot of the whole scene and just see how our colors are kind of coming together. Always best to do the easy ones first and then go and adjust. Because if you realize, whoops, I really don't want to use that kind of color combination, then you're kind of too late for it. Okay, like this is a bit orange, orangey brown, and this is a little bit yellowy brown. So I think what I want to do is take this and maybe just take this color and add just a bit more orange to it. So just pull it off this way, a little bit more saturation to it. I could even grab one of these colors here and just do something like that. That might be a better looking color than what we had there. So let's render and save. Let's save the image, render it again. Then we just see the before and after. I think it's a little bit too much. I could also eyedrop if I open up this image here. So I really like this brown color. I'm just going to use this eyedrop and pick off that brown. Just do a little section of this so I can see. Yeah, it's getting into the pink zone. Let's see what that whole thing looks like. Maybe too orange. Yeah, definitely too orange. Alright, I'm going to go back to that original color because I think that was probably not the original one, but that one. Alright, that's good there. Alright, so for now, that's good. I can always come back and change the color of this. I can change the color of that if I get further on and realize that I need to change that color. Okay, you can also see that with this darker color, the highlight is a lot more prominent. Okay. Alright, so let's close that. Let's close that. Oops. Let me see my render view again. That looks like an okay brown, but I think I might want to change that as well. Alright. So by the time this whole thing's done, I may go back and readjust every single one of my colors. We'll see. Alright, so now if you remember we have this stick shift. We're going to start with this. I'm going to go back to my move tool, hold down W, hold down left mouse, and go to world. Just get that back to world. There we go. And I'm going to move this up, and we still have this label here that should be, you know, the stick shift numbers. I'm just going to go to stick shift label, and you know, there's this image here that's okay. There's not really, I never was able to find like a good image of one that I liked that was like dead on. And that's typically what we would need for a stick shift label. Okay. So we're going to use our own stick shift label for the top of this that we're going to create. So I'm going to go to Photoshop. Doesn't matter which version of Photoshop, as long as we can save a ping image out or a TIFF image out, that's all we need. Okay, and if you look, oops, I've never driven a stick shift except for maybe like 5 times in my entire life. But like in this case, the reverse is over here. It goes reverse, then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On this one, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reverse. Okay, here's another one, reverse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, kind of like the first one. So it's all kind of different. So I'm just going to stick with this kind of shape because it's kind of easier to draw. This is basically just a couple slashes and a line across. So I'm going to make a new document, and we only care about pixels. That's all we care about. So I'm going to make this document 1024 by 1024 pixels and hit OK. Now I'm going to go to my circle here, ellipse. I'm going to start drawing from the center, hold down shift, and drag it out. Okay? And I'm dragging it basically until I get to the other side. Make a new layer, fill it with black, and there we go. Okay, so now this is where I can draw this in, because there's going to be a label basically on a circular shape, so I want to make sure that I know where to put it. I don't start drawing stuff over here because it wouldn't fit on that shape. All right, so I'm just going to take the opacity down just because this is basically a template. That's all it is. I'm going to make a new layer where I'm going to draw my actual image. So I'm just going to go in with the brush, make sure the hardness is up, and something like this, and then I'm going to make a new layer again, and then I'm just going to copy this layer to that side by using Control Alt and Shift. Control Alt and Shift. There we go. And I'm going to merge all these together. Control E, Control T to shrink it down. There we go. And then I can just put in my type for this. So let's see. R, tab, oops, it was actually 1, tab, 3, tab, 5. Hit Control T, fit it into place. Oops. And adjust the spacing here so we can open up our tools. There we go. Oops. I actually had some weird spacing on already, so let me just take the spacing off, and now it should fit pretty close to what I need. Good. Now I can just hold down Alt and Shift, drag this down here, and just change my numbering to 2, tab 4, tab R. There we go. It's close enough. Maybe a little nudge down here. Maybe a little nudge up there. I'm going to grab all 3 of these, Control T, and just make sure it fits in the middle. There we go. Alright, so now that should be good. I'm going to leave this bottom one black. Actually, I'm just going to color the whole background black and color these guys all white. Oops, I have to control click that one and then fill it with white. Make sure you're on the right layer. There we go. And then I'm just going to save this into my... So I'm saving this into my source images. Stick, shift, label. And I'll save it as a ping. There we go. Save. Smallest, no, sure. Smallest, and then none. Should be fine. Alright, so now we need to put that label on here. So I'm just going to go inside. Same little trick we did before. Go into face. Grab that. Shift. Make sure we have 5 of these if you remember. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. 5. And I'm going to go to not extrude. I'm going to go to lighting and shading. Make a new Mia. Stick, shift, label Mia. I'm going to click the map button. And I'm going to click on File. And I'm going to bring in my file that I have here, stick shift label. And you'll see that the stick shift label does not show up on the stick shift area that I thought it would. Okay? No, I didn't think it would. I knew it wouldn't. So what we need to do is we need to project that texture down because it's not in the right spot. So I'm going to go back in here, grab these again, shift 1, 2, 3, 4 to grab all those faces. Okay? I'm going to go to my polygon menu, go to create UVs, go to planar mapping option box, and I'm going to say from the Y direction I want you to project down on here that texture, project, and there is my texture. Okay, now if you see from the side view, my projection is straight on and my object is a little rotated. That's not going to matter. If I wanted to, I can hit Control and middle drag, it's not there, on my X direction here, and I can rotate that until it gets lined up, but it's so slight it's not even going to matter. So OCD Sean will just leave it with a little bit of rotation in there so it is adjusted, but In reality, it's not going to matter too much. Okay, back to object mode, click on it, and then I can just go to stick shift label. Now we have two materials on here, so we have two different Mias. So stick shift label, reflectivity is basically off. That's it. Okay, so now I can just take this guy, reset his translate while. Why would he do that? It worked before. I don't know what we did that kind of messed that up, but stick that back in there. Okay, so now if we were closer to this, I don't know if we really even have a light on it. It's going to show it. We'll do a little render and see. There we go. The label is upside down, and we're reflecting our image back there. So we need to flip the label. That's no big deal. I'm going to click on this object. I'm going to go to Edit UVs, and I'm going to say, let me see it again. There's a flipping. No, it's a rotating. So I need to rotate it 180 degrees. There we go. So now if I grab this section, hit the render region button again, one, two, three, four, five, reverse. Perfect. Okay, now you can't really see it too good from here because of the reflection and the lack of lighting, but when we're back there and we do see it, then we'll be happy with it. Right? So I'm going to save this as basically part one of the texturing stuff. And then part two of it is going to be doing this radio face and this AC controls, and then the texturing part is going to be done. Okay? So we'll stop it there, and then we'll pick up with the rest of the texturing.